In this video, we're going to be looking at taking an expression and writing it as the square root of a single expression. That means we want to rewrite each of these so they end up in the form square root of something. Now, to do these questions, we're going to rely on a rule you should have come across before in the previous video and also in topic N8b. And the big idea here is that if you've got the square root of a quantity and you multiply it by the square root of a quantity, so let's say we've got the square root of m multiplied by the square root of n, then that's going to equal the square root of m times n. Remember the invisible multiplication sign in there and in there. So what this is telling us is that if you have a product of square roots, you can combine them into the square root of the product. And similarly, we could work in the other direction. If you've got the square root of a product, then you could write that as the product of square roots. Let's have a go at question A. Here we've got the square root of A multiplied by the square root of B. We have a product of square roots, just like up here. And that means we can combine them into a single square root like this. It's the square root of A times B, which is just AB. And that's it for the first question. Now, let's compare that with question B. Here we've got 5 multiplied by the square root of m. Notice the 5 is not inside a square root. We've got 5 multiplied by the square root of m. But what I can do is rewrite the 5 as the square root of 25. So that means 5 root m is root 25 multiplied by root m, and now I've got a product of square roots, so I can combine them into a single square root and I get the square root of 25 times m, which is 25m. Let's move on to C. Again, what I've got here is not a product of square roots. I've got a square root here, but this currently is not under a square root sign. But that's fine. I'm going to take this in turn. I've got 2 multiplied by a squared multiplied by the square root of r. Now I can write the 2 as the square root of 4. I can write a squared as the square root of a to the power of 4. If you're not sure about this, then go back to the previous video and check that one out. Just carrying on with this, I've still got to write the square root of r. So we're multiplying all of this by the square root of r. And now I've got a product of square roots. So I can combine them into a single square root, and I get the square root of 4, a to the power of 4, r. Finally, we've got question D. Again, we've got a product here. We've got 7 multiplied by p to the power of 4 multiplied by the square root of q plus 1. However, the 7 and the p to the power of 4, they're not under a square root symbol themselves, so we can't use this rule up here just yet. But that's fine. I'm going to rewrite the 7 as the square root of 49. I'm going to rewrite p to the power of 4 as the square root of p to the power of 8. And we're multiplying that by the square root of q plus 1. So we have a product of square roots now, so we can combine them into a single square root. We have the square root of 49 multiplied by p to the power of 8 multiplied by q plus 1. Now I'm multiplying that by q plus 1 in total, so that needs to be in brackets like this. So here we have written this expression here as the square root of one single expression.